Hello guys, and welcome to my first episode of Savvy's Savvy Breakdowns. This is where I'm going to take a specific topic that I've seen a lot of questions for and try to break it down. Today's topic is going to be transmutation crystals. These were originally introduced with the Clockwork City DLC back in 2017. This also included the transmutation system. Transmutation crystals are a currency in ESO used for the retraiting or recreation of gear. In-game, they're most commonly referred to as crystals, which can be confusing because there's also crystal furniture, there's an ability called crystal frag, there's also multiple forms of crystal geodes. So with all this type of confusion going on, when I refer to transmutation crystals in this video, I'll be calling them crystals, as that is the most common in-game terminology for them. To start us off, let's explain how you use these transmutation crystals. Crystals are used at transmutation stations. There's a transmutation station located in the Hall of Refined Techniques in Clockwork City's Brass Fortress. Access to Clockwork City is required to access this particular station. For those without Clockwork DLC, there is the option of having a transmutation station in a personal house. Typically, larger guilds will have a player-dedicated home that they call a guild hall. And in this guild hall, they'll have various resources and stations, including a transmutation station that anyone can use, regardless of if they have access to the Clockwork DLC or not. The first thing that you can do with the transmutation station and its original purpose back in 2017 was for retraiting. For this, you can take any item, mythics, gold, purple, and you can change the trait of that item. This utilizes 50 crystals to retrade. Here you can see I'm looking at the mythic Pearls of Anthony and seeing the option of changing its trait from Arcane to Swift. A retransmuted item or a retraded item will have this symbol next to it that looks like a swirl. Items that are transmuted become bound to your account, meaning that you can't take overland gear, try to retrade it, and then resell it because the item will now be bound to your account, making it unsellable. This is bound to your account and not bound to your character, so you can still exchange the item from character to character via the use of a storage coffer or a bank. One thing to note is that when you are wanting to retrait an item, you need to have the trait that you are wanting to change the item to researched. So here you can see this character would be unable to retrait this lightning staff of leeching to either infused or nerd-honed because she has not researched those traits. So this is something to keep in mind, that you're going to want to start crafting research on the traits that you are wanting to retrait to as soon as possible. So we've learned about retrading. There's also another use of the transmutation station called recreation. Recreation was added in 2020 with the update 28, which also saw the implementation of the collection book system. This system is mainly referred to as the sticker book by developers and players alike. As you can see from my collections, I then navigate to the Set Items tab, and in this collections you can see Overland Zones in the Aldmeri Dominion region, Daggerfall Covenant region, Ebonheart Pact, DLC zones. There's even collections for dungeons for the base game, and DLC dungeons, trials, arenas, PvP zones, and the miscellaneous mythics, starter zones, and Cold Arbor. With these different locations, you're going to notice that each set has a different recreation cost. Why these costs are different is because recreation costs can vary anywhere from 25 crystals being the lowest amount and 75 crystals being the highest amount. An item will cost 25 crystals if you have every single piece in that set. The more items that you are missing from the set, the higher the cost is going to be. As you can see in this Drake's Rush set, I have every single piece, so it costs me 25 crystals. But if I go and look at this PvP set, such as Affliction, where I only have 2 of the pieces, or I look at this set called Beckoning Steel, where again I only have 2 of the pieces, this is going to cost closer to that 75 crystal cap. Antiquities are only ever going to cost 25 crystals. This is because the mythics from the antiquity system are all unique items, 1 piece for a set, therefore making them the minimum of 25 crystals. So you have an item in your sticker book, you've collected the piece before, you've bound it to your account, and now you're ready to recreate an item. Recreation is the second tab on the Transmutation station. And you can find an item in your sticker book. I have an add-on that allows me to search for it. And once you find the item that you are wanting to recreate, you then select what traits you want. And note that it is only costing you crystals. Even if I make it in the Nirnhone trait, it is not going to cost me potent Nirncrux. It is only going to cost me crystals. It is going to recreate the item in the quality that it dropped from. This Saxley Heals Champion's Ice Staff dropped in a blue quality. If I want to upgrade it to gold quality, it is going to cost me Mastic and Rosin, equivalent to what it would cost to go to a regular woodworking station to upgrade this. For the recreation of this item, as you saw, it only cost me 25 crystals to recreate. And I now have 1 Saxley's Champion's Ice Staff in my pocket. For recreation, the same limitation on traits applies for recreation as it does for retraiting. Recreation of an item requires the prior research of the trait you are wanting to recreate the item in. Even if the item naturally drops in, say, a divisive trait or a powered trait, because this character has not researched powered before, they would be unable to recreate this Undertaker's Maul in the powered trait. So again, something you're going to want to start early is research on traits in this game. I've introduced you to both retraiting and recreation. One system is not necessarily better than the other. There are pros and cons to each one. Retraiting can potentially cost less crystals than recreation, if you're trying to recreate from a set that you have very few pieces from. But the same thing also goes, recreation can potentially cost less than retraiting if you have a substantial number of the pieces in your collection or in your sticker book. One thing that is a downside for retraiting is you are required to have the set item you are wanting to retrate in your pocket in order to retrade it. So this means it's going to be taking up inventory space either in your coffers, your character, or your bank until you want to retrade it. Reconstruction, on the other hand, you can recreate an item with nothing but crystals. Now there are certain moments where retrading is going to be a better idea than reconstruction for, say, something like a purple or gold piece of jewelry. The materials used to either purple or gold out a piece of jewelry, zircon plating and chromium plating, are very expensive in ESO, and probably cost you more time to grind for the gold to either buy those materials or grind for the materials themselves than it would be to get some transmutation crystals to just retrait those items. So that is something to take into consideration, is the value of crystals, gold, and crafting materials to you as a player. So I've introduced you to how to use crystals. Now let's talk about how to get some crystals. My personal favorite way to get transmutation crystals is through the use of random normals. These are random normal dungeons, and doing either a random normal or a random vet will garner you a premium undaunted exploration supplies. You can do these once per day on a 20-hour cooldown per character. Each one of these undaunted exploration supplies will grant you 10 crystals. If you have the maximum number of characters on your account, which is 18, doing one of these per day, 30 days, leading to a total of 5,400 crystals. I also recommend doing random dungeons because these are going to give you a lot of experience along with that premium undaunted exploration and help you fill up your set collections for various dungeons through the curation system. Do note, a random normal and a random veteran dungeon garner the same number of crystals, 10 crystals per dungeon. And once you've done one random normal, you don't get another random vet. They're both on the same cooldown. Another option you have is using the Cyrodiil monthly campaign rewards. This monthly campaign reward garners 50 crystals. In order to get these monthly rewards, you need to first set Cyrodiilic campaign as your home campaign. You'll want to navigate to the Alliance tab, Campaigns tab of that, and then go to one of these Cyrodiil campaign. You can choose any of the 4 different campaigns as your character's home campaign. To set a campaign as your home campaign, if your character's below level 50, you can enter in the below level 50. Otherwise, you're going to have to utilize one of the other 3. To set one as your home campaign, you're going to want to right-click, set as home campaign. You'll get this pop-up screen, and then accept that this is now your home campaign. In this specific instance of Cyrodiil, so for me, this would be the Raven Watch, or the standard no CP Cyrodiil, I would need to enter this instance of Cyrodiil, get 25,000 Alliance points, which will get me to Tier 1 rewards. On this screen, you can then see your end of campaign reward tier. And as you do more content and you start getting closer to that 25,000 points, you'll see that tier bar under the end of campaign reward tier fill up until it says Tier 1 once you've reached 25,000 points. One benefit I find that you also are working on leveling up your assault and support skill lines along with getting crystals. If we look at the numbers on this, we're looking at 50 crystals for 18 characters, if you have the maximum number of characters, per month, equaling to 900 crystals. Another way to get crystals is through the Undaunted pledges. Normal pledges will give you 1 crystal, veteran pledges will give you 3 crystals, and veteran hard mode pledges will give you 5 crystals. While these aren't the most efficient way to get crystals, you're also getting Undaunted keys, another currency that's very useful in ESO. So it is a good idea to try some of these out too, especially if you want some diversity. There's also a few miscellaneous ways to get crystals, including PvP rewards for the worthy. These are mailers that you get after you have gained a set amount of Alliance points in Cyrodiil. These geodes that you get from your rewards for the worthy can have anywhere from 4 to 25 crystals with them, but most likely they are going to be 4 crystals per geode. Another one you can do is the weekly trial quest. These coffers you can get once per week after completing the trial quest for any of the trials in ESO, and they are guaranteed to give you 5 crystals each, along with a set piece, Slaughterstone, and potentially even motifs. Another avenue for getting crystals is Tales of Tribute. Through the competitive rank, you can get anywhere from 5 to 25 crystals per level, with 100 crystals going to the top 10% of players in the competitive rank and 250 crystals given to the top 2% in the competitive rank. There's also a random chance for 5 crystals to drop from the reward coffers, but this is very sporadic and not reliable. There's also various in-game event reward coffers that can give crystals, but again, this is another way that is sporadic and not a reliable way to depend on getting crystals. So now that we've taught you how crystals are used, how to get crystals, now we want to talk about how to store them. In ESO Plus members can hold 1,000 transmutation crystals, while non-subscribed members can only hold 500 crystals. You're already at the maximum number of crystals that you can hold for your account. You open up another transmutation geode and take the items from that geode or that coffer containing crystals. You are going to lose anything past your capped number of crystals that you can own. So what are our options to help not lose crystals? The first and foremost is most of your rewards are going to be coming in the form of mailers, either through your monthly Cyrodiil campaigns or your premium Undaunted exploration supplies. One thing that's nice about using your mailbox to hold your crystals in the form of the geodes is that they're not going to take up character inventory slots. A downside is that mailboxes can get too full to receive player mail or trader mails, so I wouldn't use this as a long-term solution to hold your crystals. Another option is, once you collect your mailers, your coffers, and have various geodes in your pockets, you can then just hold them on an alt character that you don't really play with that much and it's just being used for storage. Do be mindful of which transmutation geodes you have in your inventory. Geodes that only have 1 crystal aren't going to be as good a use of your inventory as geodes that are going to have 10 crystals. And if you ever start opening up a geode and see that it contains more crystals than what you have inventory of your currency to hold, you can always cancel opening it as long as you don't take the crystals. You can always close back up a geode and put it back in your inventory. But once you have taken the crystals out of the geode, they go into your currency. One thing about holding transmutation geodes on your character is that they do not stack and are character bound. So be mindful about which character you put them on, because you wouldn't want to fill up your favorite character's inventory full of crystals and not have room for other items. My personal favorite way to store extra crystals is to reconstruct gear. One thing I didn't mention previously, whenever I was showing off reconstruction, is that any reconstructed item, when you deconstruct it, you always get 25 crystals back from reconstructed gear. This is regardless of if you spent 75 crystals to make, 52 crystals to make it, or 25 crystals to recreate that item. You are always going to get 25 crystals back. Another thing to note is that you are not going to get back your upgrade materials for that item. So be mindful that using this reconstructed gear as a storage of crystals, you do not want to upgrade these items. As you see here, I'm making an excess of Saxhleel Champion Ice Staves. My recommendation is to make multiple copies of the same item so you remember that this item is my reconstructed gear storage item and not a set piece that I'm actually going to use. You're going to want to reconstruct a set that only costs you 25 crystals to recreate. You can use trial gear, dungeon, overland, doesn't matter, as long as it only costs you 25 crystals. Something to note though, you do not want to use this method on mythic items. Mythic items cannot be deconstructed, only destroyed. Destruction does not give you back crystals, only deconstruction. And as you see here, another benefit of using reconstructed gear is this gear is now bankable, storable in coffers, able to be transferred between characters for various storage, unlike this transmutation geode that no matter how hard I tried, it will not go into a storage coffer. And you can see, if I take this Saxleel's ice stave over to a crafting station to deconstruct it, I get 25 transmutation crystals back. With that, guys, that is my savvy breakdown of transmutation crystals. Of course, there are different ways to keep earning more crystals. There's more creative ways that people have done for storing them. These are just the highlights that I have collected and that I use in game for my personal experience with transmutation crystals. If you have any further questions, feel free to please ask below. Or you can also come hang out with me on stream if you have questions about other ESO content. I'm live 4 days a week over on Twitch under SavySnapdragon. Over there, we do a lot of group content and enjoy learning ESO together. And if you learned something today, make sure to throw a like and to subscribe so you know the next time we have a video. With that, have a great day and thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you around next time. Bye!